to watch Survivor and slog through the nadir. Then season 40's awesomeness will make you wanna cheer. We're all just so excited to watch these winners play. But we're still lazy, so this podcast comes out on Friday. John will make some dumb jokes, and he likes to yell and scream. But now we're watching 20 winners play, and it feels like a dream. We'll spend the whole time freaking out and judging the best move. And anything that Tony does, you know that we'll approve. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. Winners at War!
Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am John, the world's undisputed biggest Boston Rob fan. I'm joined by Andy, the world's undisputed biggest Yule fan, and we're discussing Survivor Winners at War episode 7-ish at this point. I don't really know. The important thing is we have all the bases covered about our fandom here, so we don't need anyone else with us here like we had last week. Right, Andy?
Actually, John, I thought, I was just thinking, this is just spitballing, based on what happened this episode, it made sense to bring on the world's undisputed best Tyson fan.
Oh, Matt. Huge Tyson guy, that guy.
That's me.
That's right. So, those are the three major storylines that we'll be talking about this episode. Yule, Tyson, Rob. I think everyone would agree that they were the three major players. Welcome back to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me, guys. I can't believe you made me wait until after Emma was back on.
Well, you had the benefit of Parvati going, oh, that's right. No, I'm sorry. Your favorite Tyson did go ahead of Parvati.
Right. And so then you made me wait,
yes.
Out of,
as punishment.
Chivalry.
No, definitely.
Well, we wanted you to get over that loss, and we wanted to get you a week where, there wouldn't be any big emotions. You'd be able to speak about Survivor a little more clear-headedly. And on that subject, how much does it suck that we just lost Yule?
I can't believe we lost Yule. I hate this season.
He was so well positioned that in them losing, I was like, well, at least Yule's not going home. That was the one thing that I took comfort in as that tribe headed to tribal council. I was like, well, they did lose the challenge, but I feel like the only person I care about on that tribe is Yule, and he's set, so I don't care how this vote goes. Well, it turns out.
So really heading into tribal council, you still thought he was safe?
No, I'm saying after they lost the challenge, and I knew they were going to tribal council.
Okay.
Yeah. I started, but I didn't worry until Yule gave the post-challenge confessional, and then I was like, wait, why is Yule saying it's Wendell? That's not what's going to happen now. And then my worry started to increase, and my frantic DMing of John started to tick up tenfold.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, it was when they were at camp and they started, when he started talking, and it was clear that both Nick and Michele got the looks to them when Yule was talking strategy, and then I'm like, shit.
I don't think that was the moment that actually buried him, though. I think that was what the show used, but I think that Nick and Michele were closer to Wendell than we were shown.
Oh, sure, and we'll get into the reasons why. It's just while watching, that was the moment where we're like, oh, no.
Right.
And I think what basically it all boiled down to, and I think it's been a repeat for all of this season, is as soon as everybody realizes how dangerous these players are, it's over, because they were already worried about it. So the hope, what we had seen, leading up to this, is that people weren't viewing Yule that way. Last week we didn't, list him in our legends, and it wasn't because we were overlooking him. It was because nobody else seemed to be doing that. So it didn't seem like he was being given that status by the people there. But as soon as that moment happened between Nick and Michele, even before they started talking, I'm like, crap, they do see him this way. We're in trouble here. Yeah. And then once I saw them talking, going strategy, it's like, I bet it's Yule.
Yeah, no, I felt the exact same way. And it's just a continuation of what has kind of become the way to play modern Survivor, which is you cut off the tallest blade of grass until there are, only 3 blades of grass left, and you hope that you're, the tallest of those 3.
Yeah, and it's disappointing to watch that because people are so quick to strike that no one ever gets to build an interesting game. It's all the also-rans that just happen to tag along long enough to make their one move at the right point.
Yeah, and it really sucked for Yule because it felt like, prior to this episode, that he was somebody that would be able to do that, one of the comforts I was having is like, yeah, sure, like Nick and Wendell look like they're in a good spot, but that should be to the benefit of a player I like, Yule. Yule had successfully rallied the lessers up against the Poker Alliance. And I'm like, well, that's good for, it's bad for me that I want, me who want to see, Amber or, Tyson, succeed a little, but it's good for Yule, so that's good. But when he goes, not my favorite player, but one of my very favorite players of all time, but when he goes, it's like, there's no hope. That's kind of what I felt. It never felt like there was going to be much hope for a Rob or Parvati, so I was just happy when we got something out of them. But, when even, a Yule can't hide from, this modern philosophy, it's just, not only does, my hope for the season start to fade, and it is a lot, and we're going to get into that, my hope for this show, as a product, as a competition, is starting to really waver.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really... I'm still fine with this season because, as we'll discuss in a bit, there's still a lot of people that I still like in the game, though generally there's not as many people that I like as much as the people that are on the edge. But it really just... It's a continuation of, what's been a strategy for the past, 8 to 10 seasons or so, where it's just... The second someone shows they're a threat, you cut them down, which it makes sense. It's what people should be doing, but it also means that we're not really getting to see people stand out in the game when everyone's crouching. And, the observation was made by Boston Rob early in the season. He was, in the very first episode, he was like, why is no one throwing out a name? And it's because, everyone who has won in the modern game has learned you don't throw out a name, you don't stick your neck out, because when you stick your neck out, you get in trouble.
And I think, to your point about the people on edge versus the people still in the game, I think if you offered me that next week we're going to have, I should probably save this for my hopes for next week, if they said, hey, we're going to have a challenge, Edge of Extinction people versus people still in the game. If Edge of Extinction people win, everyone on the island goes to Edge of Extinction people come back and play the real game. I'd be like, yes, cool, support. I'm 100% behind that. I would take a complete swap out, even though I would lose Tony and Kim in that process.
In a complete, manipulation and bastardization of this game, you'd be like, yep,
I'm going to roll with it. I don't care. I'm going to let my fandom shine.
And for me, it's it's not even just I'm all, sore that I'm losing my favorite players, Yule, Tyson. I guess I like that Boston Rob guy a bit, just not as much as John. Right. I knew I was going to lose people I enjoyed. I'd made my peace with it. It's just, going into this season, following last season, I was, when we had another mediocre dude win the game, right? And
yep.
I keep struggling with remembering the redheaded guy's name who won last season.
His name was Tommy.
Tommy, there we go. And it's just it just feels like this is what Survivor is. And can I fault people for, voting out somebody that feels like they can beat them? No, I can't. It's just, it's not interesting to me. And it's hard to get invested in a competition when it's this really big race to the middle. And I mean race, because Survivor's always been a bit about the middle, and that's why, every once in a while when we get a truly, exceptional, winner or even exceptional almost winner, they're to be treasured, because that doesn't happen very often. But the middle, it used to take a little longer to get to, but now it is truly people racing to, I don't want to be the worst, because, some of the worst people are still taken out early.
Right.
But I also I cannot be better. Because that's dangerous, and it starts so early, and everybody's like, I know there is the attitude, and I appreciate the optimism. We tried to have we did have optimism going into this season. That, look, man, Tony's still there, Kim's still there and all that, but it's there's That's 4 people. At this point in Game Changers, we still had good people left, people we could have been excited about. But I also knew they weren't going to do anything. Now, do I know that the people that we like are not going to do anything? No, there's still some hope. Also, the people that I don't like as much aren't terrible for the most part. But what it says about Survivor, and this vote in particular, is just, I don't know if it's a competition I can get excited about anymore, because I don't know if it's one that you can really, excel at.
Well, and this is why I compared it to kind of the strategy of the past couple seasons, because if this was just happening on this season, it would be like, okay, that's smart. These are winners. They realize that these people are threats. They're doing this. But it's really a continuation of the same game that a lot of these modern winners played in their seasons. And so it's not a new thing that we're seeing. It's the same thing that has made me grow a little weary of the show in recent seasons. And to see that on a season that I was looking forward to so much is distressing. And if it had just been like 1 or 2 or 3 of these, of these favorites of mine, I wouldn't care, because that's like, well, there's so many others. But it's, except for like Danny, everyone that's been voted out has been among my favorites.
And we had this same issue last week where it's like, at least when we lost Sandra, it was a big moment. It was Denise stepping up to the plate and making it a moment. I mean, Wendell and Nick and Michele voting out Yul, shrug. That's not anything other than them being like, Yul's better than us, let's get rid of him. Like, okay, well, that was fun, I guess. I'm with you on it feeling pretty bleak at this point. And it definitely does feel like anybody that can make a name for themselves gets cut down really quickly. And then the people that I was, less enthused about, I have to get a little more enthused about. So someone like Sarah, who I can't believe I would say this, Sarah is at least more entertaining this season. I know she's a really good player. So if Sarah can somehow work some magic and make it far in the game, I might be like, hey, that was enjoyable at least. But I feel like the ceiling of this season has just been lowering week after week.
Yeah, shout out to all the legends who had to be coaxed back into playing Survivor again against their better judgment. I bet they really feel great about that decision, right? and for this season specifically, one of the reasons why I always wanted an all-winner season was the closest to a level playing field we could get while bringing back some of these players, right? Because, we're not idiots. Fans are not idiots. We know that, from the very first time they ever did this, that, big targets will be targeted.
Right.
But it's but if they're all winners, then shouldn't that be a thing? And it turns out, no, there's still going to be a hierarchy. And it's not even just, the biggest names. It's still, a Yul, too. His big mistake this episode was proving that he isn't an out-of-touch idiot. That was basically it. Once people saw, oh god, no, this is the Yul I remember on TV, and he was really good at it, that was it. It was a wrap. Because the 3 other people know that they're not that great. They're pretty good at this modern stuff, because the modern thing is run and hide. And it's just, if Survivor is a game of hide and seek, the way to win it now is to hide, but I'm more interested in people who seek.
Yeah, well, I will say that I think one of those 3 people does actually think they are as good as Yul, and it's the one that's getting by far the worst edit of those 3. Wendell clearly thinks that he should be in control, and I really think that Yul got voted out because there was a power struggle between the 2 of them, and the other 2 realize it's easier to pull one over on Wendell than it is on Yul. That's what I think was actually going on behind the scenes here. And, and you can tell by the fact that, Wendell is basically oh, Yul's coming after me. Why is he doing that? And it's because you're acting irrationally, and you want to be in control despite the fact you're all over the place.
Yeah, so can we point to something Yul did wrong? Yeah, I think, everybody's saying he looked too dangerous and all that, but that's precisely the frustration. Because the decision for Michele and Nick was, do we play with this player who seems to know really what they're doing, or should we play with this player we feel like we can beat? And of course, it's the smart decision to play with the person you feel like you can beat.
Yeah.
But it's just boring. I'm tired of everybody being I don't want, there's no asset, there's no value to me as a player to be with somebody who is good at this.
And I think that the arrow has moved for player you can beat. Because back in, Cagayan, Tony was a player you could beat. People were not afraid to take Tony to the end like they should have been. And now that Tony proved, oh my God, you can play that game and win. That's then made those types of players like totally dangerous, and you would never want to sit next to them. So everybody plays for the more milquetoast types that they can bring with them instead.
I mean, and some people that are still in the season would play with a Yule. I think Sophie would still be playing with a Yule. I don't think she would have turned with him because in her view, the way to play the game is to align with people that are of like mind, of like strategy, and Yule is that with her. You know, I don't want to say, you know, I mean, like Yule didn't get like swap screwed like, you know, Parvati and Boston Rob did, but
no.
I do have real problems with the swap because the swap, it seems, you know, like you guys were saying last week and the week before, the swap has evolved to where it's just open season on people who have lost, you know, the work they've put in during the first 10, 12 days of the season. And now they have to go back to work, you know, and with a raised profile and maybe with some people that realize, hey, this person's now vulnerable where they weren't before.
I think they're trying so hard to avoid those like pre-merge pagonging type things where a tribe gets split, and then we don't want to see just we know which 2 or 3 people might be going home every week. But the cure to that was having idols. The idols plus the swap is just it's too much. It switches it back into the opposite direction where it's like, no, now I can't watch this person build their game because they have to rebuild it every 12 days.
You know, the swap was introduced because they didn't want it to just be whoever survived from one tribe versus whoever survived from the other tribe. And the thing is, that was necessary back when it was first introduced because that was the dynamic that would always occur. But then, you know, but I think Modern Survivor, while that might be the dynamic for a couple of votes, I don't think in most seasons that would be the dynamic for most of the post-merge. I think it would be a more fluid game even without that. And if you don't have a swap, it would allow people who have worked on building relationships to actually see value from that work. It's an artificial thing that's thrown at them, and that doesn't mean it's unfair because the game throws unfair things at you all the time. But it also means that maybe it's outlived its usefulness. Maybe this is not giving you what you still want.
I think one of the ways they've survived is by throwing little switches into their formula. Like Philippines rescued this show because they were like, oh shit, 3 tribes could do it. Like people weren't used to that format. We could reinvigorate the show because we're introducing a new wrinkle. People don't know how yet to respond to it. But now we know all the configurations. We know there's going to be a swap. We know they're going to switch to 3 tribes. We know all these different things will happen. And the players plan for it. And then they realize, like you guys said, we got to swap open season. Quick, let's get rid of all the people that we don't want to get to the merge with.
It becomes like an early merge. The merge was always a dangerous time for the strongest players, all the way to, Gretchen being the first merge boot ever.
Right.
Colby getting votes put on him in the second merge ever. Like, it's always been that dangerous time. And now and for one, merges used to be closer to halfway through the season.
Right.
And now they're a third of the way to the season. And then they push it up ahead even more. And it's just creates this thing where, I think for the first little bit, why be the person? Why try to make any moves other than to possibly save yourself? Because that just means that you're going to be a target even earlier. And this, like, all of Modern Survivor has just become, just don't be a target, just don't be a target, just don't be a target. And I can't fault that as a gameplay if you're there and your goal is to move on. But I can fault that as a television product.
Right.
You don't want people just running away from it, excelling at the things you're presenting. It is not particularly interesting. And like it's a problem. And I know, like, I think when I've railed against this in the past, because, how I talk about how I like people who, try to win, that, make bigger moves. It feels like an attack against a certain group of people. Frankly, it feels like a gendered attack, right? Because some of the, awesome female winners of this show's history were a little more under the radar. But here's the thing. This new philosophy of, don't stick your neck out and you could win has not benefited women at all.
Yeah.
Right? Look at the modern winners. Women aren't winning very much.
Yeah.
What it has benefited is the mediocre male. Right? And, like, that's not what I'm here for, and I haven't been here for since I hated Vanuatu for similar reasons.
Well, oh, man, you're giving Chris a lot of credit calling him a mediocre male.
Yeah, it's quite a step up for him.
I mean, But, like, that's, like, all of these guys, and we're seeing them, and, like, we saw them in this vote. We see a Nick, we see a Wendell. They know that the move is to not be that strong. Right. And, like, frankly, like, Wendell still was, like, one of the two strongest players, because that season was, poorly cast. And I think a lot of this goes back to the fact that modern players are far more versed in, like, the rhythms and the history of Survivor than past players ever were. And that's not just because, like, they're casting more fans and all that. It's because it is so much more accessible to, like, catch up on Survivor. So, I think what might have been more interesting in the past, the way that, like, players might have been able to stick around a little longer, even though they were obvious targets, is not everybody knew that, like, we should get rid of that person.
Yeah, well, and then there's another way that the rhythms have been coming into play, and that's with how predictable, certain events in the game have become. We were talking about the problem with the swap. Another problem with the swap is the fact everyone knows when it's going to hit within 1 or 2 votes. It's either going to hit at 16 or 15 if they're going to 3, and that's it. And if you know it's coming, it loses any surprise either. Like, what they should do, and a friend of mine mentioned this to me today, was they should, from the second challenge on, Probe should bring out a wheel, and he should be spinning that wheel until, every challenge he spins it once. It's either swap or no swap. And maybe, you grow the swap area a little bit every time. And, and if it doesn't hit swap the first times he spin it, then you don't swap. And he just brings it out every challenge. And then there's that unpredictability to the point where everyone is like, is this the week we swap? Is this the week we swap? Maybe that's the solution, just to add that very visible unpredictability to when or if they ever swap.
I don't know if I support that because, they've had a swap wheel at a lot of swingers parties that I've been to, and it really puts some pressure on the situation.
Well, you want to be the one spinning the wheel,
and
right?
also the anticipation. When are we doing this? This is what I'm here for. I prepared to get rid of the people I came here with.
I'm not dancing with who brung me.
I just think unpredictability to, like, the more basic elements of the game would help the game at this point.
Yeah, and John started to bring this up, and I believe it was in comments. I think it might have been Prom King. I wanted to give the person credit, but now I'm a little unsure, unless I just did. Or it was Matt that brought it up, but that like, the juries now respect gameplay. So nobody wants to be up against a game player, In the past, like, the people who were, like, the more active players sometimes lost at the jury phase. They were punished for that. That doesn't happen anymore. I can't think the last person who was punished for playing too active a game. It might have been Russell Hantz. It's been a while, right? So then that becomes another thing that, like, now that you don't want to go to a jury unless you're like a weirdo like Wu or something. You don't want to go to the jury against that person.
Right.
They don't even have that cover. Boston Rob had a bit of that cover in Redemption Island that people could think, I've seen this guy lose in front of a jury. Like, I think they're going to hate him for what he's doing, or they won't want to reward a returnee. There probably was talk like that at the time, so that was enough to, like, people being like, you know what, he's less dangerous than, like, person from other tribe. And, like, to your point, I think Tony had some of that too. Like, Tony's going to be another Russell Hantz, but then Tony wins, and I can't remember the last time that somebody was penalized for playing too hard at Survivor at the final jury mode.
It might have been Coach.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I would say that. That's probably accurate.
I think that might be it. Yeah, if anybody else has another example, but what happens is, like, they'll try to convince themselves that one of these people was more active than the other.
Right.
I guess you could say maybe Dom, but, like, dude almost won.
Yeah,
like,
and I would say he was just as active as Wendell was. Like, that was, like, they literally were, like, tied in terms of both activity and
Final Tribal Council votes.
Right.
So, yeah, and it's created that experience. And look, if you're still into it, say, there's people that are, like, listening, it's like, stop crying, Adam beat whoever or whatever. But it's just like, that's fine. It's just, I'm not. And I don't mean every season to be, the games master wins it all. I don't need I don't really care about challenge beats much at all. But I need it sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's been a while. Jeremy, maybe it's the last one to win that way.
I think so.
And that wasn't even in the 30s.
No, that was 31.
Early 30s.
It was 31. It was barely in there.
All right, yeah, his first appearance was 29, but
Right.
yes, he won in 31.
Right. Oh, actually, I just remembered probably the actual answer to the last person to win that wasn't the most active game player. Wrong. Michele.
There you go. Yep.
Good point. And she's here. Hey, we should switch to a slightly happier topic and discuss who's left that we actually still like and are rooting for.
Yeah.
Well, first off, technically, there's a lot of people that are still in the game that are on the edge of extinction. True. So there's an answer. All of them but Danny. Next.
So Jeremy, Tony, Kim, I think, and Denise are the four most obvious ones.
So the entire Red
but
tribe.
then, right, so the entire Red Tribe. So thank God they didn't go, though, not much better to lose Yule. But Sarah and Sophie, I'm on board with. I was a little hesitant on them before this season. I've really enjoyed both of them this season.
Yeah, that's the list for me.
Yeah, so I obviously like those four, but I don't have a lot of hope for them. I think there's avenues, but if the dominant narrative is we need to vote out, these legends, and their dominant narrative is we're legends and we need to band together. Oh, there's 7 other people versus those 4. Yeah. I think the person I might be rooting for, besides anyone from Edge of Extinction, and I don't care what your arguments about the perversion of the game, I'm in favor of it because I feel like those people never really had a chance. So might as well give them another one. Now they're even. I might be rooting for Sarah. Because I've been impressed with what she's done, I've been entertained, but also I feel like she's the person best positioned to win while doing exciting things. Because I think she'll be given enough of a runway to do so. Because even though she absolutely deserves it, she apparently doesn't have the same rep that those other people do.
Yeah. Except with the people on the edge. They all seem to really respect Sarah.
Yes! Yeah, and I think that's part of it. They saw what she did in that season. They were like, yeah. Whereas I think the other people might have saw it and like, yeah, I still don't like a lot of us fans. Right. We're like, yeah, she's kind of boring.
And that's why I was getting to this earlier. Like, I think I might actually be rooting for Sarah because she's the most obvious person to me that could actually do things and yet not necessarily be immediately taken out for doing things. I don't really know why. She just doesn't give off the threatening vibe. And I think she could actually maneuver. I don't know that it would be the outcome I would most root for, but I do want to see an active winner. So if it has to be Sarah, it's Sarah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at too.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
Ultimately, I want Tony to win, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that would be the best.
See it. I don't see it at all. I think, Kim she has an idol, although Sophie knows about it, so that kind of hurts a bit. And, maybe she's, we saw her make connections with Denise, so, there's a chance she has a second life, but it's like, I just don't know if any of the biggest names can do it, given what, the other players are banding together to do, and it's 7 on 4, maybe 5, depending on who comes back of Edge of Extinction. But yeah, Sarah's like, Sophie is already fully Team Sarah. Other people seem to be that way. She's getting money from Yule. It's already working. So and I know she can do stuff. She did a lot of stuff in Game Changers. It was almost like this is like a repeat of Game Changers, but maybe she can do that, but better or more interestingly.
Yeah, I think just more entertaining is really what we're looking for because I think she actually played a great game in Game Changers.
She did.
Yes. 100%. And I think that could actually happen because, while we're down on the people who have been successful lately, I'm not they're not these dour, people that were on Game Changers. I pointed that out a while ago that it wasn't a fun season, so Sarah couldn't be fun. They're fine. It's just what they symbolize and the moves or the thinking that seems to be their structure of we need to get out threats, we need to get out threats, we need to get out threats. It's like. That was what was thrilling for the first couple weeks. It's like, are they not thinking about getting out threats? Oh, no, okay, they are.
Yeah.
And it's just that's what it represents. Because it's not like these people are bad. It's not like these people aren't in normal seasons threats. It's what's happening in Survivor for the past several seasons even bled into the Dream season.
Right. And just what I notice, if you look at kind of the remaining cast, the people who I actively don't like are all the ones that were introduced in the 30s. Whereas everyone that remains that was introduced in the 20s, I I like to a degree. Actually, yeah. Or
somebody else pointed this out in comments. To get cast on this season from the past, you needed to be a legend.
Yep.
Right? Like they were, or Danny.
Or
right?
Danny.
But even Danny, even with Danny, it was like, she'd never come back. It had been a long time. The only person from her season. Like there was at least some interest there.
Right.
Whereas to get back on this season from recent seasons, you just had to win.
Yep.
You didn't have to be a legend, right? And that's, where, like, so obviously, like, time made some of these people legends, and the fact that they're watching, but there's also the fact that, like, and nobody really thought that these people were legends anyway. They were just the people, I mean, obviously, Michelle stans think that, and we're gonna get into it. But, they just needed to kind of win. And, like, one of the undercurrent, like, storylines that's happening with Michelle, it's happening a little bit with Ben, that, like, they have something to prove. Only a modern winner could have that, because only these modern winners that were brought back have doubt about their wins in the first place. Everybody else doesn't have anything to prove because they won.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Again, Danny is probably the exception there.
Right. But also, there just aren't that many.
Sure, but like not a lot of people have spent a lot of time thinking about Danny's win since then.
That's a good point.
I mean, right, and there just also like weren't that many other people to invite in Danny's place because there aren't that many female winners.
Yeah, the list of female winners that were denied is smaller because the list of female winners.
Right, it's basically Tina. Was the one that everyone was like, "Oh, where's Tina?" And that's like the one bigger name than Danny that was left out that could have been included there.
So was this the right decision by Michele and Nick? Obviously, we hate that they came to it, but do we criticize the choice of doing it?
I actually do, yeah. Because, well, this is why. Because you're coming into a merge. You know that you're good with whatever 3 survive this. But 3's not a majority. 3's not even close to a plurality. You need bonds with those other people. And I don't know that Wendell brings that. Who are, Wendell's 2 closest people, the only people Wendell's close with, are the 2 people that he's with. Whereas Yule has bonds with a lot of other people on that other tribe. He makes it very easy for you to build a majority. And, and again, like the way Yule was talking, you think, hey, he has bonds with those other people, but he's still really close with us. I'm not sure that these 3, you seem very convinced that they're going to team up with the Sophie Sarah crew. I'm not positive about that. I don't know where these 3 are going to go. And if maybe they just get picked off because the other ones see them as weak and not as tight as they would be. Yule has bonds. Yule makes it very easy to build a majority. I think this was really short-sighted.
Do you think that Nick and Wendell were aware that Yule had such bonds with, like, Sophie for one, and then Sarah? Like, was that clear to them?
I think they definitely knew that he was close. I think they definitely knew he had bonds with Sophie because that was, like, the 4 that he put together. Whether or not they knew that he had, like, bonds with, like, Sarah or with Tony or with, other survivors of that original tribe, I'm not sure. But I think it's very clear if you look at, like, the scenes from, that at least we've been shown that Wendell certainly doesn't.
I'm most disappointed in Yule here because he made a pregame alliance with Nick. I don't remember where I read that, but I did. He should have aligned with his wife's favorite player, Parvati, and we would just be living an entirely different experience right now. So I'm so disappointed in Yule. That's where Yule went wrong for me.
I mean, I also just think that it's like, we talk about how Modern Survivor is just cut down the tallest blades of grass, but, if Yule's the one you're worried about, I'm not sure why you need to do it right now.
No one seems to have any interest in Jeremy's idea of being shielded. Like, I think everybody just figures, hey, if there's no such thing as a shield left, I think part of that fear, too, might be like, oh, we can't let that shield get too close to the final 4 because they could win immunity at 5, and then, we're screwed, that person wins. So they chop them off earlier and earlier. I get it, but at the same time, like, none of these lower tier winners have any interest in the shield thing because they're just like, nah, screw it. If all the targets are gone, one of us has to win. Like, they can't just say, no, you all suck. We're not going to vote for you at the final tribal council. Someone's getting that $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, Tony is obviously interested in the Shield idea, but I think, for Nick, it's like, who isn't a Shield if you're Nick?
Yeah.
Like, you could convincingly position Adam to be one, so I mean, I get it from their perspective. I am interested in this idea that, like, where do they have to go now? But I guess the flip side is, like, where else is Sophie going? Does she have deep bonds with Tony?
I mean, Sophie's following Sarah, and Sarah does, though.
Yes. That could be an excellent point. And Sarah is also somebody who, at least showed interest towards the idea of shields, and I think is somebody who could benefit from them. So that would be amazing.
But I mean, and I'm not even saying
with that idea, you're already starting to like renew some of my faith that things.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying that they paint themselves into a tighter corner with Wendell than they would with Yule. And that's why I think it's a mistake.
I'm with Andy. No, I'm just going to go optimism here, because if we get into the merge and the Sophie Sarah is basically the swing block, and they swing towards that red tribe and they just take out all the lessers, I'm in 100%. I'll take any of those 6 as a winner, whatever.
See, but now you assholes are going to blame me if this doesn't happen.
Yes. That's one of the reasons I'm totally embracing this.
God damn it.
I mean, we're not even going to have you back on the podcast. We will just spend our time here complaining about how Matt did us so wrong. Your fault.
Yes.
The one worry I have is it's not like Sophie has a long history of swinging back and forth in her playstyle, No. But yeah, maybe she's not presented with an option. But her way to win was probably the most rigid win in the history of Survivor.
You know what she needs? She needs a swing wheel. Have probes come out and spin the swing wheel.
But I also feel like she's somebody who, could very easily play a different way. It's not like she had a lot of options the first way to play differently. But, her win in South Pacific was characterized with, I'm going to make sure none of these other, frankly, unlikable people that I'm aligned with do anything to make this game interesting or change, right? And which was the right move for her. But if I'm looking for somebody to, then do this to this season, she's not the most likely candidate for me just yet. I need to see it before I can do that. Because, she was... But she does have a bond with Kim, not one that she was particularly interested in having, but it exists now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just perceive Sophie as being the type of person that could be adaptable. And it's really just because she seems smarter than the average player. So that alone might make her realize, I'm not going to win with the same exact strategy I had the first time. I can switch it up here and still be fine.
Right, which is why Sophie's among the players I still like that are in the game, because I think that what we've seen from her so far is more personality and more game, and she's already, I think, displayed a little more flexibility than she had on South Pacific.
That's a very low bar.
Right. Admit it.
In part because the game ended up being flexible, right? South Pacific wasn't at all,
right.
No swaps, no anything. It's one thing about she's smart enough to know she needs to change her game to win. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if it's actually a thing that winners change their game to win again. For one, it's never happened before, right?
Yeah,
the only person to
one.
win this game twice. Yeah, and she did the same thing twice, Generally, you change a losing strategy, not a winning strategy. That's just kind of a tip for life.
Good point.
And that's kind of been a charge that's levied against people. Again, look who's talking here. Again, against Rob a lot. He's not that good. He can only win one way. Nobody wins 2 ways. It's not a thing. It's a weird rubric that was created so people could sound smart when what they're really saying is, I hate Rob, and I wish you'd stop talking about him. But it's just the winners that changed their game, actually historically have been historically bad. JT changed his game, and it did not work out well for him.
To be fair, though, we have always said that JT taking that swing in Heroes vs. Villains was a worthwhile risk. It totally blew up in his face, but it was a worthwhile risk.
That'd be nice. But he came back again and to try to, like, instead of charming people, I'm just going to do lots of crazy things. Like, people tend to stick with what they're good at, in part because a lot of what's being good at Survivor is just like, who are you and does that work in this game? Right. It's not like, it is wildly like, this is the strategy I've been putting. I'm going to try this new move on the chessboard. It's like, I'm good at this sort of thing and people like that and I won. And here I am a few years later, surprisingly, I'm still the same person as I was. So I'm going to be that person and hopefully people will like that and I'll succeed. Now, for Sophie's purpose, she isn't the same person. She was a 21-year-old, which is barely a person. I think we all can acknowledge.
Yes.
So maybe she will play a much different game. But it's just like, she's smart enough to know she has to play another one. It's like, I don't know, like, her previous strategy has a 100% success rate in her mind. Like, I don't know if she's been like, I can't win that way because, like, why would you feel that? Because you'll be a huge target? No, you won't be a huge target. Not in this season. So it's like, So
what we need to be rooting for in this situation then is for Michele to play the exact same game she had before, which is take someone better than her to Final Tribal Council, right?
No, because she won last time.
Yes. So she needs to repeat that same strategy and take someone better than her to Final Tribal Council. Or preferably two people, which she kind of did last time as well.
Hey, so we've been, like, pretty complimentary of Michele this season. And we had Emma on the podcast last week, and she started to talk us down from that. And I wanted to know what you guys think after this week. And, like, putting aside the voting out Yule and the bitter feelings that entails. But, like, how do you feel about Michele now?
We should let Matt go, because I know that Matt is a huge Michele stan.
It's true. I am the biggest Michele stan on this site. Anyone come at me, prove me wrong. No, I mean, but honestly, before like last week, I was warming up to her. I was like, oh, she's more personality, more entertaining. The thing that got me this week that totally just put me back to where I started before this season and I've always been is I don't understand why you choose the person who treats you like shit over Yule. You know, like, why does she still want to be with Wendell? She's miserable with Wendell. You can't fake how, like, unhappy they make each other during those scenes. Why are you just why are you staying with him? Like, just why do you have to, Michele, why do you have to keep allying yourself with the shittiest men on every season you're on? That's my problem with Michele.
Why change what works,
right?
buddy?
Yeah, why change what works?
Like what I was just saying.
Why change what works? Just ally yourself with the shittiest men on the season that she's on, like Nick and Wendell here, who, most of the people I think on this season are not shitty. I'm ready to put those two in shitty. And then, on our original season, like Jason and
Scott.
The NBA player whose name I forgot.
Scott,
right? God. Yeah. So that's my big problem with Michele.
I'm amazed that she gave Wendell a fucking fire token. Like, what even was the purpose of that? It clearly didn't buy her a lot of goodwill because we saw conversations they had after that, and he still seems like, at best, a very shitty and shaky ally to her. Like, he's constantly correcting her and annoyed by her and explaining shit to her that she's already said. Like,
he's literally mansplaining to her. Like, on the show, we are seeing him mansplain to her.
Yes.
We are seeing him talk down to her. We're seeing him mansplain. He's being a fucking ass to her, and she keeps coming back to him.
And her big famous scene, one of like the 3 times she appeared in Co Wrong, was to say that she didn't need to be carried, bro. Like, where's that Michele? She's trying to be carried.
I mean, I guess people would argue the fire token works. How many votes did she get against her, right? And, she came into the episode looking like she was the biggest target. So there's that. But no, I agree with Matt in that it seems like the key to Michele's success, and getting back to what I was saying, that maybe no one ever changes their game, is she's really good at placating shitty dudes. And that's how it worked. That's how, the jury felt good. Like, oh, yeah, that's the one. And it works for her. Because in the end, Nick is strategizing with her. Wendell's like, it's me and you. Yeah, for sure. Now, get out of here, you idiot. And like, if she gets into a jury with, enough shitty dudes on it, and, I don't know if there's enough of those here, but who knows? And up against, who knows, maybe, some women or, minorities who, like, made them feel bad about beating them, that she could win again. And then we can all be on the internet being like, yes, queen, she is the symbol of all things, great about slayage, only because Probst, made comments about her. But yeah, no, I was all the way out after this episode. And, look, I said to separate it from the old, but, look, if you want to charge bias, go ahead. I don't care.
I'm in.
But, like, before I knew she was voting for Yule, the scene with her and Nick, when Nick is asking her what she would like to do, who should we vote for? Which way should we go? Wendell or Yule? He's asking her, and she will not give an answer. Like, it's a one-on-one conversation, not even a bring it back. What do you think about Yule?
Right.
She's just making sure whatever she does not put herself out there. And, like, again, this isn't even criticism of her, but it was a distillation of everything I fucking hate about Survivor. And, I found it amusing the first episode because, like, there's all these people, what about them? No, maybe not them. What about them? And then finally, like, Rob and Parvati, like, why are they not doing anything? And then we actually never saw Rob and Parvati pick the target of Natalie. Everybody's been blaming Rob for it because, maybe the only fathomable idea is that eventually Rob said something, and apparently once Rob says something, you have to do it. He's forcing you because he's a big bully. But, like, it was frustrating them, but funny. And for me in this episode, it was just frustrating. Just like, fucking say something. Yeah. Make your big move. Her big move was to make sure that Nick got to decide who to vote out.
I mean, and this is the thing. In the earlier, one of the reasons I disliked Michele was because, in Korong, was because I hated seeing how she played off these shitty dudes. Because, it wasn't that she was against them, she was with them. And then this season, when I briefly liked Michele, it was because it was like, oh, this is what Michele looks like when she's playing with a woman who respects her, and that's interesting. And then Parvati goes and then it's like crappy old Michele again. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. So maybe Michele, like, when she's around women that she's actually playing with, like, maybe she is as interesting as her biggest stands online say she is, but she just doesn't choose to play with those people that often.
And see, this is why I thought she needed Parvati as the mentor, like Parvati to take her under her wing and, like, show her how you do this thing, which didn't get to happen because of, small tribe swaps, Yule taking them out, whatever it was. It just, I would have liked to see that narrative develop. Like, Michele might be a better player if she's surrounded by people like Parvati. Who knows? We don't get to see that. She switched right back into placating Wendell by giving him tokens and letting Nick call shots. Like, I'm with Andy. This is not fun to watch.
Wait a minute. Wait. Is that suggesting that I'm not with Andy on this one?
Yeah, I know you're the biggest Michele stan, so you're going to be opposed to this.
You guys are just
Michele had a chance. Yeah, that's why we invited you on, just to rope everything bad on you. But she had a chance to work with somebody who respected her, who, like, at least narratively seemed like part of the reason why he was turning his mind around was that he didn't like the way that Wendell was treating her. At least he used that as a bonding tool. And, she took that, and then she used that to whine about fucking fire tokens again. And then Yule's like, I have a plan for that, to make you more at ease. And she uses that to get rid of that guy so that she can still be with Wendell. And part of, like, another thing is, like, I'm so fucking over the Michele and Wendell bullshit. It was funny when Parvati was there. Yeah. But now it's just like, I bet this is what it's like for all your friends, too. Just like, oh, God, those two again. Right. For, like, the 2 weeks or however long they were together.
Right.
And it's just like, it's not funny anymore. Because you had a chance to do something about it. And apparently, you just love the drama.
Yeah.
And I agree. This is why I don't watch The fucking Bachelor. I have no interest in this shit.
Yeah, like, to further the point, like, I liked it when it seemed like her and Parvati were, like, striking back against it. But no, it's more like, she's culpable. And, my sympathy is no longer with her. Frankly, there's a little bit with Wendell. It's like, it's clearly that they're both just a little shitty.
Yeah,
which is probably true of most relationships.
I wouldn't say my sympathy's with Wendell because Wendell definitely seems to be shittier.
Yes.
But my sympathy is not with Michele anymore. Where I enjoyed it when it first happened because it was, and I thought, oh, hey, maybe she'll do something about this.
Yeah.
And yet, no.
I didn't mean like I have sympathy for Wendell. It's just like before I was totally on Michelle's side, and now I'm just like, okay, yeah, they're both making each other shitty, right? Because he is being shitty. Well, yeah, obviously edit, blah blah blah, but the scenes are happening. He is doing those things at those times.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh well, I mean, yeah, apparently she doesn't mind, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch on over to Edge of Extinction. Let's end this Michele and Wendell bullshit. We had our first Edge of Extinction quit of the season. Tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked you were that Sandra went home, Andy.
Went home within the first 5 minutes. I guess a 2. Went home at all? Not at all. Like before the season began, either on our comment boards or in tweets, I'm like, oh, I just realized Rob is probably going to be on the jury for the first time ever. And somebody hit me back with like Sandra too, and I'm like, I don't know if she's going to stick around. Nope. And people are like, what? You think she'd quit? And I'm like, yeah, that bullshit? Of course. Like, why would she stay? She is a historically bad challenge performer, and she's older than she used to be when she was historically bad. What she is good at Survivor does not matter at all at that portion of this non-Survivor portion. So yeah, she's left, and good for her.
And she's got 2 million reasons to leave. Like, she's already set anyway. She played, she lost. Good, go home. She's not making it back in. Like, that's an accurate reading of risk. I totally support that.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. Like, it's just also like, why would she stick it out just to be on the jury? Where some people are like, oh, well, she should have stayed just to be on the jury. She doesn't care about that. Why should she care about that?
I think I said on Twitter, Sandra had no interest in awarding someone else money other than Sandra.
Yeah, no, she isn't a particularly generous person for any part of it. Like, if it is not good for Sandra, it's not good. And I respect that so much. I've said this before on this podcast, but clearly this is an opportunity, and that it must be said again. People severely underestimate the value of quitting. It is, it's, I don't know if it's the strong, American or whatever work ethic. Sometimes you just need to be able to take stock of a situation and realize this isn't for me, and just fucking bounce. Like, there's not a lot of, nobility in, suffering for no reason. If something isn't for you and it's never going to be for you, then quit. And I mean that especially for this, part of the game that almost everybody hates. But I also mean that in Survivor. Like, I'm not even that, nonplussed about when people quit Survivor. Sometimes things that seemed like a good idea at the time end up not being good ideas. Fucking go. And I respect her so much for doing it. Like, when at first I'm like, she's not even gonna, stick around and, chat. But then I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Honestly, that's kind of awesome.
that was what surprised me, too. It wasn't the fact she quit. It was the fact that she, got there, stepped off. Everyone's like, hi, Sandra. She's like, yeah, where's the flag so I can raise it?
Yep. Yeah.
Just, knocking over to the fire pit. Like, she cannot be out of there fast enough.
Yeah. I mean, that was the one part of it that surprised me. But also, that's great. She just knows exactly, what her shit is, and this ain't her shit, so.
Yeah, it very much reminded me of, her with the knocking over the fire log and everything. Reminded me of the old Simpsons gag where they, race out to the car and you hear the tires screeching in the distance. She could not have gotten out of there faster, and I respect it so much.
But no, she is good at a great many things in Survivor, none of them that mean anything in that portion. And what about a puzzle? It's never just going to be a puzzle, people. Anybody who's arguing that she has any chance of coming back, you're just trying to be upset. What? Stop. It's the same people who they keep laying out these, crazy hypotheticals of why, Parvati might have had a chance or something. It's stop lying to us. We know, and most especially Sandra knows she ain't coming back. So why fuck around for 20 days in a shitty situation, also that she can pick what will probably be an obvious choice. Her vote, one of what will be 17 votes, that's really going to decide the winner of the season. fuck off. I'm glad she quit.
Same. There was some other interesting action on the Edge of Extinction. Like, there was actually, several scenes there that I was like, yeah, I'm fine with sticking around here. Like, don't give us any time on that Green Tribe. I don't give a shit about them. Let's hang out on Edge of Extinction. And while we were there, we did get to see our boy Ethan hanging with Parvati, having a nice, touching moment. Did you guys enjoy that? Matt, was that a scene of the night for you?
I just like whenever those two interact. They have a great just chemistry relationship, friendship. Though, Parv trying to like holistic medicine Ethan, actually being worried about his cancer was a little sketchy. But I just liked watching those two together.
I agreed. I mean, I love their dynamic as well. Like, it's just fun to watch them interact. Same thing with Ethan and Rob. They're just fun to watch hang out. Like, it's a good buddy comedy type thing going on. And yeah, I think Ethan was trying to have a real genuine moment, and Parvati felt like she needed to say something there and was like, yoga fasting?
I did like she like saved it at the end when she's like, maybe you should stop thinking that negatively. Like, that was fine. All the other goop bullshit, not so much. But yeah, no, like, I've said it before this season. Like, that's honestly the stuff I'm interested in Edge. It's just like, oh, cool. Let's spend time with these people again and remind us what we like about them. Because the other part we got, and frankly, like, yeah, everything on Edge of Extinction was more interesting this week than what was happening there. I worry that will be a trend for the rest of the season. Although I also remember saying last season, like, as bad as Edge of Extinction is, think of how much better it would have made Game Changers. So if this is going to be like Game Changers, then at least we have that. Like, what did you guys think of, like, the then turning around and having everybody chase after, like, fire tokens?
I like the flashback.
Yes.
I like the way they edited it, and they'd use the flashback to kind of show us what actually happened.
Well, Rob, you're like John, you're the biggest Rob fan, so what did you think about Rob finding the tokens?
Oh, first of all, obviously, I loved Rob batting 750. But more importantly, like, I'm with Matt. I love the flashback. I like the way they structured that narratively. Like, it was much more fun to see them all sitting around and going like, oh man, I don't know. And Rob mooning Tyson to prove that he had no fire tokens on him. Rob was like multiple times willing to take his clothes off in those scenes, like, to the point that I'm like, you're really eager about this, buddy.
Rob's always the first guy to be like, shirts versus skins.
And he's already taken off his shirt as he's saying it. Yeah, but it was cool to watch Rob then narrate the flashback. The guy's good at talking to the camera. Like, he knows how TV works. He knows what to say. He could probably picture the scene in his mind. So it was good. It was a fun little scene. I don't know that I'm super invested in fire tokens as a thing yet, but I enjoyed what we got out of Edge, at least. And what's weird is you mentioned that you were more interested in hanging out on the characters in Edge of Extinction. A whole lot of the people that complain about Edge of Extinction are the same people that get pissed that we don't have those character building moments. It's all strategy and game boss and blah, blah, blah. Well, now you fucking have it, and you're very upset about it because it's outside the game, quote unquote. Like, just fucking enjoy that at least we're getting this rather than spending more time with Adam and Ben being fucking clowns.
What I liked is that, like, last week we were saying, hey, Parvati going home with no chance and all that. This proves that, producers aren't fixing anything. And the producers stepped the fuck up this week because, just handing Rob 3 fire tokens and then going back and shooting the footage of, like, oh, they were totally here. Like, that's A+ stuff. Like, that's what we needed. A little too late, but, there's still time. So, thank you again for fixing the season for Jeff Probst's only favorite player. So that was good. I also like Tyson, talking, his smack, because it actually is the 2 layers of the Tyson smack talk that I like. The first layer is he's funny and he likes insulting people, and that is funny. But I also like when Tyson also fails doing so. And it had both, right? He's like, he's a portly fellow, so what's he going to do? And then it turns out, he actually, was given 3 fire tokens by production.
Yes. And no one complained.
Right, and we had to see it in flashback, so we couldn't see production go like, hey, Rob, here, and then throw the fire token out in front of him. So
Now, I've seen they reenacted that after, like, just being like, here you go, buddy. We never actually placed these anywhere because what if somebody else beat you to them? Like, that's probably what happened. I think we all know. I've seen this.
Yeah, that's a better point.
Hey, how about the fallout for Denise wasting that second idol and announcing her presence in the game? That was swift and brutal, was it not?
So, in fairness, they didn't go to Tribal, so we didn't get to see if there was any sort of fallout. But it's...
Why are you being fair here, John? Why are you being fair? It's obvious that there was a swift and brutal fallout. Come on now.
Yeah, I think Denise is fairly well positioned, and this is why, like, there was a level of camaraderie we saw with that grouping of 4 that I really hope sticks around at the merge. Like, my entire rooting interest exists in that tribe, and I just need them to stay together.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mostly pointed that out because I love saying I told you so, and last week, of course, we were like, no, it was good, and this is why, and it will bond her, and we saw all of that come to play. But the other reason is, like, a lot of the things we were complaining about how, action is so swiftly punished in Survivor, and that makes it worse. We, as audience members, don't need to aid and abet in that process by, like, discouraging moves constantly. And that's, like, whenever somebody does something bold, there's, like, this counter chorus of, oh, no, they probably shouldn't have done that. And, Malcolm, maybe you're right, but I also feel like it's helped raise a generation of Survivor players like, oh, no, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. But I'm also maybe just talking shit because, I'm coming from a place of hurt. You were talking about Adam and Ben's bullshit. We should get into that real quick.
Oh, can we please?
I actually kind of found it a little funny, in part because of the way I interpret all events in Survivor and possibly the world. It's like, hey man, maybe it'd be nice if you guys had a buffer between you guys, but no, you wanted to stick each other with the good ship Ben and Adam. That worked out really great for them.
I mean, it did genuinely amuse me how much they obviously irritated each other, and Ben is someone I found kind of funny this season. So like him, talking down to Adam, I found kind of funny.
The part I enjoyed about that was that Ben is a lower tier winner, and I think even recognized it earlier in the season, and yet still talks down to Adam, which then puts Adam on an even lower tier, which I enjoyed because I'd really like to stop seeing Adam on my TV so much. It's getting a little old, and if it's not building to like Adam as a unanimous merge boot, then it probably means that we're stuck with Adam the entire season, and I'm just so disappointed in that.
I mean, how can Adam do any wrong? He has such impeccable Survivor skills and senses. Like how he knew 100% that the idol was either with Sarah or with Ben. He knew that. He knew it.
I love how it was impossible to be more wrong than he was.
He gave himself 2 choices.
He was even giving himself more. 2 out of 3. It's so great. And, he was right. That, they're fucking with me. I can tell. He was able to sniff that out. They ain't really looking. Although, shouldn't Ben be? I don't believe he is aware of where the idol is. But...
No, I'm pretty sure that Ben does not know. But Ben, I think, was convinced that Adam had it.
It's those two. I know it's those two. If I know anything, it's those two. It's
I do at least enjoy that they're getting clowned. That's fun, but I think I'm so bitter because, Adam got clowned earlier in the season and didn't get taken out like he should have. So now it's not as fun for me anymore. Yeah. I'm like, nah, I don't want him to stick around all season and get clowned. I want to watch other people play Survivor.
Right. But that's also, I mentioned how I was liking Sophie this season before. I like how she handled the entire situation where when those two were obviously hating each other, she's just sitting back and kind of laughing to herself about it, because I was too. So.
Well, also, in Sophie's credit, is that it's clear that she doesn't really want to play with Adam either because she threw him under the bus.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
The one I thought misstep was Sarah saying, hey, Adam, I definitely don't have it. You can even look through my bag. She knows that Sophie has it. I don't know for a fact that she knows that Sophie has it in her bag. But at the same time, probably don't throw that out there just because you might end up screwing Sophie there.
Yeah, maybe.
I think this episode, this season, has really shown something that the whole show me what's in your bag, what's in your person is a waste of time. Like, we've actually had people have things in their bag or on their person, and nobody saw it. So, that could probably go to a stop now,
All right, let's move on to more happy topics and talk about what we're hoping happens next week, because we're finally getting a merge, and we did get confirmation from your boy Jeff Probst that we're getting the Edge of Extinction, at least one person back next week. Did he specifically say it's one person?
No, he just said there was a play-in challenge.
Okay. I mean, I assume it is only one, but I wouldn't put it past them to throw a wrinkle in this. Who knows?
I think the person that's coming back is somehow immune. And, it could be that they're granted immunity. Could be that they bought an immunity idol, although that one comes into a little less. Like, I think they're publicly immune because we got a lot of scenes of people in the game throwing out names, and none of those names were the person coming back. Like, it's like, how do you even get to a place where you're talking about voting out Adam when, like, one of these people is coming back?
Well,
so I almost wonder, like, maybe they win immunity. Like, I think, like, there must be something because, like, as much as you'd want to get rid of Adam, I think everybody would be talking about the returnee. And, I guess also maybe it's Danny. I don't know.
Well, also, in the preview, you're probably not going to
that'd be disappointing.
Strategizing about getting Tyson back out of the game.
Well, absolutely not. But they show them talking about Adam. And what I'm saying is, I don't know how you ever mention voting out Adam if Tyson is an option. I don't know how that footage would exist, is what I'm saying.
See, you know what should encourage you is the fact that they're talking about Adam. Maybe it's my boy Boston Rob coming back into the game, and he's going out for vengeance. He's going to take out Adam for having taken him out.
No. Boston Rob's back in the game, so they have to take out Adam because Adam is is how they get at Boston Rob without voting out Boston Rob.
That's right.
He's Boston Rob's closest ally still in the game.
I forgot about their very tight bond.
That almost might be true.
But he might actually be. Like, who else is a Boston Rob?
Jeremy, I guess maybe Jeremy, but, no. So I was just thinking, and what I would hope is that it's because they won the challenge, not that they are doing the thing again where it's like you come back and you're also given an immunity idol. I don't think they're going to do that this season because they're giving you tokens to buy yourself an immunity idol.
Right.
So, that's what I'm hoping whoever comes back is immune, however, because for one, that would be the least interesting part. Yay! We get somebody back that we like. Okay, I'll see you again. That was so fun. I'm hoping that, like, one of the people we wanted to lose at the beginning of the season, we actually do. Like, that wouldn't be so bad, right?
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Like I said,
it would be nice.
Unanimous merge boot of Adam. I'm in. Let's see it. Let's make it happen.
Like, even a Game Changers, Caleb got the fuck out the paint in the pre-merge, but I didn't care that Danny left, but she wasn't, like, on my hit list when the season began either.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to put it out there. I hope Yul comes back because Yul's one of the people who could come back, and I could actually see him folding back in and not being an immediate target and working with people still in the game. Like, Sophie and Sarah would be there. He could work with them. He could work, that red drive is something like, oh, well, Yul got voted out. He must be, like they must see him as a threat. Maybe he's another shield. Like, Yul could come back in the game and have a lot of options, whereas, like, if Rob comes back in at this point, he's not going to last long.
No, you got to do a Rob move and send him right the fuck back out, right?
Yeah. I mean, same with Parvati at this point. So, like, it's, I want someone who I like to come back, but I also want someone who has some legs. Maybe Ethan, but even there, like, I mean, I don't know.
I feel like Natalie could come back and actually play.
Yeah, no, Natalie could come back and definitely play. That is an obvious one, yes.
But yeah, no, Yul could come back and start slaying people, and maybe that was what was up with the playing of the lyric song as they were heading to Tribal Council. What the fuck was that?
That was so bizarre. Like, what?
I don't know what that was.
Very rock metally. Like, yeah, we're gonna be badasses now, and it's like, what the? This is not how Survivor does. What is going on here?
Yeah, like that song was used in the promos for this season, so it's there. But it's like to use it as backing track for this, it's like that was weird. That's not. Yeah, again, that's we use like.
I mean, it's obviously because Michelle's winning, and they have to give her the rock score.
I mean, maybe I'm not ruling that out, dude. By the way, but now when it happens, I'm blaming you. You can just keep digging yourself a grave here, and I don't know why you're doing it.
Oh, because I hate myself. But yeah, no, I mean, I hope that whoever comes back in is someone who can like actually have some runway to do work.
And I'm with you guys.
That's what I hope.
I think there are certain players that I would root for to come back, and yet at the same time, once they came back, they're probably just as screwed. There are a few players, I think.
Right. Yeah. Tyson, Rob, Parvati, they can come back at 6 for sure. Because you know what? They come back at 6, they could win out. Why not?
Oh, yeah. No, honestly, for Rob, that's kind of what I'm hoping. Like, just stick around more. Hand them some more tokens. Hang out with your wife and your friends. Then come back and win it at the season. And then everybody can hate it. And I won't. And that's fine. Look, if he had never got voted out and he won, everybody would hate it too. So I don't need to to justify, just like I don't need to justify Sandra quitting. All I need to do is point to the scoreboard and say, hey, the only 2-time winners are Rob and Sandra.
You know what I would do? The very first comment I'm leaving when that happens is, haha, cry yourself to sleep. Rob beat Adam. And I'm featuring that shit on our website.
Like, it's not happening. Yeah, that might be the banner. Like, we'll get rid of whatever our subtitle is, the smartest or whatever, and just that. And the other thing, of course, I'm hoping for is the thing that Matt promised to us earlier, that, like, Wendell and Nick are punished for turning on Yule by Sophie and whoever.
It's going to happen, man. Definitely going to happen.
My hopes are completely up, and I see no problem with having that plan. There's no possible, detriment to having my hopes so high for something.
I mean, I know that we retired the prediction post, but Wendell's going home next week, guys. That's just happening.
If you fucking write that on our site, by the way.
Do you want me to write that on your site?
You are barred from writing that on the site. What you have to write is that Nick is winning the season. That's your assignment. Yeah. Work on it.
I mean, I wrote about Wendell winning the season 2 weeks ago. I wrote about Michele at the beginning of the season. I feel like I've covered most of these people, but sure, I'll work on Nick this week.
So you can look for that on our website. What's that URL?
That is purplerockpodcast.com. There's you can put the www in front of it, but why would you unless you're 70 years old? And if you are, socially isolate. Don't leave the fucking house.
So when I call your country, I have to dial 1, so I assume it's the same thing when I access the internet from my country to yours. Isn't that how it works? No? Yes?
Oh boy, let me explain Twitter to you too, old man. Purple Rock Pod is the show account. I am Purple Rock John. Andy is Purple Rock Andy. And Matt, believe it or not, is Purple Rock Matt. It's almost like we're good at branding.
And we will not let you, really work, scare quotes, on our site unless you have a 4-letter name or can fake it. Hey, if you're looking for more things to do, as John mentioned, our website has a lot. We've been putting out, so many articles back when we were excited about this season. And we're continuing with, the 40 most influential survivors. This week we had Parvati. And, next week we might continue that trend of, you get booted and then suddenly we feature you. Spoiler. But also, Matt and I have another podcast.
Yeah, we do. Andy, what's that podcast called?
I mean, I'm hoping you all know, but based on our numbers, you don't or don't care. It's
probably that.
It could be both things could be true. It's the Infinity Stone podcast. It was started for us to cover all of the films of the MCU. We finished that, and now we've been covering the X-Men franchise. And we just released a podcast the day of the recording of this podcast. So we're putting out so much content. So if that interests you at all, because you're just dying for things to interest you at all right now, you can check that out at infinitystonepodcast.wordpress.com.
Cool. And let's hit some theme music.